guys, welcome back to Ken's Chop Shop. Today's gonna be a quick little project, helping a buddy out real quick. Going to install a set of coilovers and some wheels, and maybe replace a belt and fix a couple other little things real quick on his I think it's a 88 Feiro GT. Anyway, let's take a quick look at it, and I'll show you the car before put the coilovers on, and I'll show you an after, and I'll show you putting the coilovers on too. Yep, so here's the car. I'll look the year up in just a second. I think it's an 88 though. Well, pretty clean. Well, it's dirty right now, but pretty decent looking car. It's been repainted at some point. Runs pretty good other than an exhaust leak that it's got. But yeah, so that's the car. And then here's the wheels he's got. He picked up a set of used wheels and got some tires stretched on it. It's kind of going for more of a stance look. Here's the wheels that he's got. He's got some 195/40 17s, and I think they're 17 by 8s. It might be 9s, I can't remember. 17 by 8s. Yeah, so yep, so we'll get let's see, where's the coilovers? Here's the coilovers. They are, if I can get the SF Racing Super Golds. No, they look nice. Oh, that's surprisingly the rear. I thought these were the fronts, but I guess because this is a rear engine or mid engine car, these are actually the front coilover type shocks with with the sorry about that, with the coil spring and adjuster for the rear or for the fronts. But anyway, let's get into this thing and get it lower. I'll take some measurements just to see where it's at now, and then take some measurements afterwards. But yeah, hopefully everything works like it's supposed to. All right, I got this thing jacked up in the air, and it's got some weird or very limited jacking points and places to put stands, because it's got cooling tubes running down the sides, and so I jacked it up off the front cross member, off the center of it, and then put the jack stands on the cross member. An illustration I found online about jacking points and stand placement. It shows to put some on the frame rails up in the front, but the area that it looks like they're referencing, there's a brace that goes into it, and the sway bar is there. And then if you go just a little bit further up, the core support is kind of in the way to block a larger jack stand. So I just put them on the cross member, like you can kind of see. So I jacked it off the center cross member, and then put the stands on the outside edges of the cradle. But it wanted you to put the jack stand what looked like here, but that's too close to the suspension with me working on the suspension. And then putting it here, there's all those braces and stuff in the way, and on the other side, like even this is in the way of getting the jack stand past it, like it puts it off to the side. So I just put them there, it's easier. But here's the stock. Let's see, block that light some. Here's the, let me bring this light over here, maybe that'll help. Here's what the stock suspension looks like. So I'm gonna I guess I'm gonna start probably, I hate to take those apart because I know they're gonna not go back there or not come apart. Probably take the sway bar end link off. We might have to replace those. And then I don't know if I'm gonna do the lower ball joint or the upper ball joint to get this spring out of there, and then I'll pull the shock out. Let's see. And then I'll pull this shock out. Well, I'll pull the shock out first, and then figure out which ball joint I'm gonna pop loose, and go from there. Anyway, put y'all back on time lapse while I figure this out, and get this one side pulled apart. And once I've got one side figured out, I'll slow down and show you doing the other side, just in case somebody wants to know. I've never messed with a Feiro before, so this is a learning experience for me, but hopefully we'll be able to have it knocked out today. All right, I finally got everything apart. So I couldn't get the bottom ball joint loose. The cotter key was stuck in it, so I had to shear it off, and then I just drilled it out a second ago too, so I could put a new one back in. But I couldn't get that ball joint to pop once I'd already pulled the spring out, or spring loose. So, but upper ball joint, sway bar end link, and the tie rod lets the lower control arm and the spindle drop down enough to get the coil out, so that worked. You can see I tied the caliper up, pulled the caliper off, tied it up, pulled the sway bar end link off, the upper ball joint and the tie rod, and I just kind of half-ass wire wheeled inside that coil pocket best I could with this little drill attachment. But yeah, so now I'm gonna since there's no instructions or anything, I'm gonna go ahead and start putting these new parts in and see how they fit, see what's what. All right, so many things wrong with this kit so far. One, there's no instructions. They don't tell you anything about this, how to install this stuff. I figured it out. The top, you need to cut this giant bump stop down, this bump stop out of it. Of course, I had to cut it a second time to get the rest of it out, because the adjuster actually goes to the top instead of down to the bottom, which is fine. It makes sense to do it that way. And they gave these bolts with the shock for the top mount, and I was like, well, I wonder why they gave you those, because the factory bolts work just fine, and it's welded nuts in the shock mount. Well, here's why. I don't know if you can see that. In the factory location, the shock doesn't move side to side. It's an inch off from going into this slot here. Like, it's the stupidest shit. Like, why not put like a spherical bearing at the top of it so it can slide over and adjust your kit so it works with the car, not having to adjust the car to work with the kit. It's so stupid. Anyway, let me take shit back apart again and figure this one out now. All right, that was a real pain in the ass. They definitely need to have some kind of instructions for this or something, because I'm pretty sure somebody that's, I mean, I barely had tools proper enough to cut this stuff that needed to be trimmed out of the way. The way that bottom shock has that offset bushing, there's no way for it to, if you turn it the one way, sticking out, so that you can see the sticker on it, it'll hit the caliper, and it binds up. Like, it's the way it's on there now, facing the other way, it fits great. It actually is, everything lines up really nice. There's no bind in the shock body, you know, and it lines up perfect. But you have to cut half of the shock mount out of the back of the control arm. Probably can't see it, but I had to cut a huge chunk of the, let me see if I can get the camera in there. Yeah, see, you have to clearance a whole bunch of the, and it's still really not enough room. The bushing needed to be down on this tube probably another 1/4 inch further down, and it would have had perfect clearance after cutting all the back of it out. Now that I know that I've got to cut, now that I know that I've got to cut all that out, I will do that while I have the control arm hanging down, now that I know what kind of room I need to have. So this side's done, other than I got to hook the sway bar end link back up, and I have to put cotter pins in all the ball joints and tie rod in. But I want to wait until I'm 100% done before I do that. I can't put the sway bar end link on until I do the other side, because this side is lowered now, so the end link's almost touching the control arm at this lowered height. So and I set the shock, I locked the collar down on, you know, on there, and the coil spring is adjusted all the way to its lowest setting. We can raise it, you know, obviously I can raise it back up, but when we're going to start as low as we can go and then work our way up. And the adjuster for the it's got 32, I think 31 or 32 settings adjustments on the shock for compression and rebound, or I don't know what it's I don't know what they're actually adjusting. It's got 32 settings on the valving. I set them right in the middle at 16. That should be a good middle of the road. He can stiffen them up if he needs to, or soften it up if he wants to, but putting it in the middle is probably a good baseline. I'm pretty sure he'll never touch this. From that, most coilovers, setting them in the middle for a street car is pretty good. So anyway, I'm gonna clean up this mess and then move to the other side and do that one. Hopefully I can do that one in a quarter of the time it took to do this one. All right, back on it again today. I took a break for a day because I had to help my neighbor install a mini split on his rental house. But anyway, so today I got the, well, you already saw it. I got the car jacked up in the back and started pulling this strut off the driver's side already. And super easy compared to the front. The front was a pain in the ass. This back so far is simple. Anyway, here's the comparison of the factory strut versus the new coilover. So even with it, I mean, I guess I could adjust it taller, but with the bottom of the strut body, with lining up with the bottom of the adjuster, that's where we're going to start at as a base height. It's already, let's see, that's about 4.5 inches lower. And the front, when I measured the front the other day, from the front of the rocker to the back of the rocker, there was a 4-inch difference. So that sounds like a good starting point. I may actually raise it back up just a touch, but I'll figure that out once I get it on the ground. But anyway, it was just undo the 3 bolts, undo the 3, take the 3 nuts off. Well, 4, technically 4, because there was this one was underneath, or there was another one underneath of that one. Yeah, they are there. Take those off, drop it down, and then undo those 2 13/16 nuts and bolts, and pull it right off, and that was it. All right, I'm gonna slap this thing back together and do the other side, throw the wheels on there, and set it on the ground. I did notice, and well, I did not notice it before, but I didn't really think about it before. But on the front, it's towed out a little bit right now because it's going down so low. But I left the cotter pins out of everything in the front, so I'd planned on jacking it back up and taking the wheels back off. But I wanted to get the back done first to make sure that I could get the same, I could make the car level front to rear before I locked everything down in the front in case I had to take something back apart again. But I also have to adjust the toe in because it's towed out right now. Camber, it's got I don't have a camber gauge or camber gauge, but it's got about 1/2 inch of negative camber. Doesn't really look like it, but putting a straight edge on the wheel and putting a level on it from the top of the wheel to the bottom of the wheel is a 1/2 inch difference. So I'm guessing that's probably closer to, I don't know, I don't want to make a guess because I'll probably be way off. Anyway, it's got some negative camber. I think the owner wants more negative camber, but I don't know, we'll see. He also ordered some spacers and they got delivered yesterday, so we'll put those on and see how much more flush we can get this wheel before we worry about playing with camber too much. But anyway, let me put this back together and put y'all back on time lapse real quick, and we'll put this one together and then jump to the other side, do that, and get this thing back on the ground, see what it looks like. So I just set the back down with the spacers on. I think I need to lower the back down just a little bit more. The front measuring at the bottom of the rocker on this side is 2.5 inches from the ground to that rocker, but I need to check the air pressure in that tire. It looks like it's a little bit lower than the rest of them. The other side is 2 7/8, and the back is 3.5 or 3 1/4, something like it. I think it's 3.5. So I've got room to bring the back down, but the front is as low as it can go. And if that tire is not low, then I need to crank this corner up just a touch. But I don't know. Yeah, I gotta run and go do something. I gotta run and go do something real quick. So I'll when I come back, I'll adjust the rear down a little bit lower, and then I'll work on I'll put the spacers on the front, double check the measurements, roll it around in the garage a little bit, double check the measurements. This floor is not perfect, so double check the measurements on the height, get the height dialed in, and then I'll go and adjust the toe, front and rear, because I think the front or the rear towed in. Yeah, I think the rear towed in a little bit also. After lowering it down, and it'll probably come down a little bit more, or come in a little bit more when I go down a little bit lower. The rear's got room to drop a lot more, but there's not any more room to go down lower in the front, unless I cut a coil. And I think honestly it's low enough now that he's probably going to hit shit with it anyway. So the front looks good where it's at. The back, I need to bring the back down a little bit more, and I think that'll even up the fender gap a little bit more. It's got a nice rake to it, but level would be better. So I'll bring that back down another 1/2 inch or so, and I'll show you all that once it's done. All right. All right, I just adjusted that side, or lowered it another 3/4 of an inch. Before I forget about it, I already did the adjuster on the other strut on this rear, but I'm going to show you. I'm in this bag they have the adjustment screw and a little grommet to go down in. If I can get this thing out of here. It's hard to do with one hand. So I'll show y'all. It's got this little rubber grommet, or silicone, feels like, that goes down in the tip of that hole there in the end of the strut. And then this adjustment screw for the damper softer, to make it softer and firmer, goes down in there like so, and it's in there. So it's turned all the way one way, and I've already counted on the other one. Just like the front, it's 32 clicks. So I'm gonna turn this one so it's bottomed out. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. It's right in the center of firm and soft. That's how I set the other one. That's how I set the front ones. So that's how I did both of them. And then it's having it in the middle. You can adjust it one way or the other instead of starting at one extreme and trying to slowly get. You can stiffen or soften it, but I have a feeling he's just going to leave them right where they're at, which is probably what most people would do. But we'll be able to know once he starts driving it around, and let the springs settle in, drive it around for a week or so, and then start adjusting the dampers a little bit. If you want to soften it up a little bit or stiffen it up a little bit, then do it. But I think right there in the middle is probably a good all-around street car. He's not tracking it or nothing like that. If he was going to take it to the track, I'd say firm him up a lot, but I don't think he's doing any of that. So anyway, let me lower the other side, or other rear wheel, 3/4 of an inch, and then I'll go back around and double check the measurements all around the whole car, and then start working on getting the toe adjusted a little bit so it's drivable, so he can drive it to go get in alignment. But all right, I'll talk to you in a minute. All right, I figured I'll try to show y'all what I'm doing to adjust the rear lower. A lot of people think on these coilovers you just crank on these sleeves here to adjust the spring up and down, but it's really setting your preload on your spring, and if you adjust it shorter, it's got a pretty short shock body to begin with. You don't want to drop it down, because then you won't have any travel at all. This thing has where this body here is threaded also, so I can loosen take these two bolts out, drop the knuckle down, and just spin this collar up. So I had this tight before, but I'm going to raise it up and measure it and set it to 3/4 of an inch higher than it was before, if I can do that with one hand. So yeah, that's right there, is at 3/4 of an inch. So what I'll do is I'll loosen this top one and bring it down just so it kisses that one, so that way once I take this loose and I start spinning this, I don't accidentally change this measurement, and that's exactly what I did on the other side. I can raise this body up 3/4 of an inch and then lock it all back down. So let me go ahead and do that real quick. I think you'll be able to see from this little tripod. Yeah, you should be able to see. And we'll get this jack in here and pick up on the lower control arm a little bit, just to take the pressure off of it so I can get the bolts out. And that way we can lower it down also once I do get the bolts out. All right, now that those are out, we can drop it down. Now that it's out, bring it back over here. Rust dust on everything. Of course, it's gonna hit this side. I'm not gonna be able to do this with holding the camera because I got to move those brake lines out of the way. But you can see it from here. So on the other side, it didn't hit this, but I think this is the parking brake cable on this side. When I rotated it around, it's barely scratching it. And we're almost bottoming out. So we'll come back, just like I did on the other one, come back at half a turn. And then we'll jack it back up. And I don't know if y'all will be able to see this. Yeah, you might be able to see it from this side. See how this hole on the bottom of the strut is elongated? And this one's the same size as the top bolt hole. So when I put these bolts in, I'm pushing back on the top of the knuckle to set it to the most negative camber that this setup will allow. That's what the owner wants. He actually wants more negative camber than this is allowing, but for now, until we get this figured out and figure out what the next steps are to get more camber or whatever he wants on it, this is all he's going to get for now. We're going to look into getting top camber plates for the rear, and I'm going to look, when I go back up to the front to adjust that, I'm going to look into the ball joint. One of the ball joints is, I think it's the upper ball joint, is adjustable somewhat, but I think it's already in the position for the most negative camber. But if it's not, I will adjust it for him. But if not, I think we have to look into like a camber caster bolts for the lower control arm. They go at the bushing side. It's like an eccentric cam. We might be able to push the lower control arm out a little bit more, but I think that's something better off to wait till he gets air ride on it or something. That way he can get the car lower and get the real look that he's after. Shit. And it's nice to have 3 hands. All right, that's all nice and tight. Now I will I'll separate these, run that one back up and tighten it, and then run this one down against that thrust washer and tighten it, and everything should be good. Oh, and it was Well, so this side, the old brake line bracket was rusted off. The other one, the hole for the bolt that was supposed to be in this was too big for the hole in the bracket there, right here. So even if I found a smaller bolt, it wouldn't have threaded into it. So the other one, I put a zip tie through the bracket holes and zip tied it on. This one, I'm going to put a zip tie around the hose and tie it up, just to put it back like it should be, even though it doesn't have, you know, it needs a new bracket there. Oh, we let this jack back down now. We will have to come back to this to adjust the toe on these fixed tie rods here in the back, but we'll do that once we get it on the ground, move it around a little bit, and I can do that just by jacking it up and twisting the tie rod from underneath. I don't have to take the wheels off for that. So hopefully this is the last time these back wheels are going back on. Well, I may take the other one back off because he wants me to put a serpentine belt on it, and that looks like the only way to get to the alternator adjuster bolt is through the wheel well. So we'll see. All right, let's go ahead and set this thing back in. I'll put y'all back over here on the little tripod. Let's see, what can y'all see? Yeah, that's good enough. I have a feeling I'm not gonna be able to get the jack back out from underneath of it this time, because it just barely slipped out from under this cross member at the height it was at before. There we go. Let me get the tape measure. Let's see. So that's 2 1/4 and 2 3/4. So it's a 1/2 inch difference from, I think that front corner needs to come up a little bit though. Let's go check the other side. Yeah, this one 2 3/4. 2 all right, this one's, jeez. This one is 3 1/8. So I need to move around in the garage because I think there's a low spot in the floor there. All right, well, I'm gonna check the tire pressure in all these tires, make sure they're all right first. And then I'm going to roll the car back further in the garage to a different spot, recheck the measurements, and then I will make fine adjustments from there to get this thing perfectly level. It's pretty close now. The one corner needs to come up a little bit, and I think this other back corner needs to come down just a touch, but this corner may come down when that corner goes up, but I need to check the tire pressure in that passenger front. It looks a little lower than the rest of these. So I'm gonna do that now. This battery's about dead, so I'm gonna turn this off. I'll come back to it in a little bit once I got it all done. All right, guys, I'm done with working on the Feiro now. I put the coilovers on, got everything kind of adjusted. Got a rough alignment on the toe. Cambered everything as much as I could. He might want more, but with what we've got right now, I can't get any more out of it. And put the wheels on it. I put 1-inch spacers on it. Let's see, what else did we do? Oh, tighten up the serpentine belt. It was a little bit loose. He had a new one for it, but the one that's on it looks like it's pretty new, and it was just loose. So I tightened that up for him, and here it is. It's probably about 4.5 inches lower. Those rockers are probably inch and a half, probably 1 3/4 inches off the ground on the very underneath of it. I can barely slide a piece of 2x6 underneath the front corner of it. The back's still up just a touch more than the front, but I figured that's you know, it's a better rake for it. And we can always bring the back down just a touch more if it doesn't settle. I mean, I think it's only 1/4 inch higher than the front. I think it turned out pretty good. I think it looks pretty good. I'm gonna go test drive it here in a minute and see how everything feels. If I can actually get it out on the road. They just repaved the road out at the end of my street, and they've got a pretty big lip getting up onto the asphalt from our road. So I'm not sure if I'll even be able to get it up out of here just yet. So, all right, all right, well, that's it. Thanks for watching. I don't know if you're interested in Feiros and doing anything with them, but maybe you saw something that you didn't know about them already, or how to do these coilovers. That was my first time ever messing with a Feiro, so I don't really know that I was 100% doing it right. I think everything's the way it's supposed to be. The front, if he's going to keep it this low, we may come back and cut that threaded sleeve shorter, just because it protrudes down pretty far. I mean, the front doesn't have that much travel in it to begin with, and as light as the front end is, it probably doesn't need much. But if it bottoms out on that threaded collar, I'll have him bring it back and we'll cut a little bit off of it, because he's never going to crank it back up that high. I mean, that looks like it would go back over stock with how much threads is left, because we've got that collar bottomed out right now. But anyway, thanks for watching. All right, well, I hope you all enjoyed that. If you liked it, give it a thumbs up and a subscribe. It'd really help. Trying to get this subscriber count up. Slowly coming up, but I'd really like to see that 1,000 subscriber mark in the next 6 months or so. There's gonna be a lot more car videos coming out. I got a lot of projects ready now that the garage is done. It's gonna be mostly working on car stuff now. There won't be any more. Well, there will be some garage upgrades and stuff like that coming, but not like it has been for a little while. I got some more cool plans for the stuff to do in the garage, but we're gonna start focusing more on car content to go along with the garage. But anyway, hope you enjoyed. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.